6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody. Happy Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Day. I shouldn't say happy. We honor Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Day. How's that? We'll get to more of that later, but yeah.
But it is a day of awareness, and it is a day of awareness of the people who have perished. So
I'm wearing my shirt.
Yeah, I love it. Kristi texted me and said it's MMIWP Day. Wear a red shirt, and I don't own a red shirt. I guess I don't ever wear red. I can't believe it.
I don't either, but Rhonda bought me this for Christmas a couple of years ago because she's like, I bet you'd like to wear that on your show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, sure would.
It's awesome. Yeah. So we're going to get into some MMIW cases. But we have to talk about Lori F. Vallow first and her latest shenanigans. But we had an interesting weekend. Scott and I took off on an pretty impromptu trip to Boise to see the kids. And on the way, I texted my sisters and said we decided to take off to Boise for the weekend. And both of my sisters said, "Sounds good. We're coming." So it ended up all of us down there, which was awesome.
Yeah,
and
it was really fun.
Yeah, we
it was
went
nice
to the
to get to
farmers
see the
market.
kids.
We went to the Raptor Center, which was bucket list. Do you have a picture to share?
Here in a moment, I will. I can't believe I didn't think to have one ready before now. Duh.
Yes.
I got to do a total bucket list thing. Oh my gosh, I just sent myself. Just sent myself an empty email without the picture.
The Raptor Center, it's actually the Peregrine Fund Center in Boise, is a bird rehabilitation and rescue center. Essentially, they're a place that has been working, I think, since the 70s in different avenues of helping to restore nearly extinct species of birds, raptors particularly. And they started with the eagles that we're going to talk about, and then they moved on to the California condors and the hawks. Oh my gosh, I'm brain dead. Anyway, with the peregrines, and they've done all kinds of amazing things. Yeah, all kinds of hawks, falcons, and they have this beautiful center where you can go and see some of their birds, get a ton of education. It's just a really cool experience. And I've been there several times and always talk about it. And my sisters are like, "What? I need to go there." So we finally got to go.
And they have an absolute bucket list animal for me. And that is a harpy eagle. This guy right here. That's Grayson. He's a 23-year-old harpy eagle. Harpy eagles, and he is a male. The females get twice as big as him. Some of the females the videos I've seen of them they're like 4 feet tall walking. Yeah. It's crazy. They are so cool. And that face is just so ancient. Like there's something in those eyes, you know? And this guy is
he looks straight into your soul. He stares right at you. Yeah.
And he could hear us say his name. And that's when he looked at us like this. The one gal that was, sort of giving us a tour and telling us about them was saying his name. And he turned and he looked right at us and he stuck his head out like that. It was so cool. So he has the coolest story. Before they were doing condors, California condor conservation, they were doing harpy eagle conservation. And so Grayson was actually born at this center and then raised by his parents. He was then released down in Panama as a wild bird, where he lived for about 4 years. But Grayson knew about people because people had been around taking care of him and his parents and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was someone down there who was giving tours, and they were chumming like animals, small animals, to come around the path where they were doing this tour. They were throwing out food. Well, that drew in old Grayson, because Grayson would then snap up those animals and eat them. So he kind of forgot how to hunt and became reliant on a human.
He was also horrifying people and
Yeah.
getting himself into dangerous situations, and it was bad for
And
Grayson.
coming too close to the people. Yeah. So they captured him and they returned him to this center where he was born. And he has lived there ever since. He is the only human handleable harpy eagle in the world.
Yeah. Well, the only glove trained. Yeah.
Glove trained, yeah. And he is 23. And sometimes during the day, they open the doors in this hallway where he is and into their like education center. And on the videos that they play in the education center are his handler, the person that cared for him when he was a baby at this center. And every time those videos are on, he stares and watches her. He recognizes her.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing.
Is that not cool as hell? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
so cool.
Amazing, you guys.
He is incredible. Incredible. And I have always wanted, after seeing one in a photo and watching videos of them for the first time a few years ago, I've always wanted to see one in person. Mm-hmm. And it's not like there are very many out there that you get to see in person.
No.
So, got to see this guy on Saturday, which was so awesome.
Yeah. And support this center and the work that they do, because it's amazing. They helped bring the condors back from the brink of extinction.
Yeah. Yeah. And the condors were incredible. They were so cool.
They have 3 condors, that they're showing. Lots more. There's a lot in at this center that you don't see, because they are not a zoo. They are a conservation center. They have lots of incubation happening and husbandry happening and stuff that you don't get to see because that's not the point. But yeah, pretty cool. It is a painting behind him on the wall. That's why it is. Yeah, like a painting.
He's on a like a dead tree perch, and then it's a really cool painting behind him.
Yeah, but yes, very cool experience.
Yeah, so awesome. So I was so excited about that.
Yes, very cool. But yeah, we had a very fun weekend. And then, of course, today we're back at it. So let's talk about Lori Vallow first, and then we'll get into our MMIW cases. Well, as you know, you knew what happened because this is standard. But of course, what Lori did is always hair on fire and everything.
Less substandard.
Substandard, yes. Lori Vallow filed for a new trial. She believes she's entitled to a new trial because, guys, everybody was against her. Everyone was conspiring against her. There's more misconduct going on than you can shake a stick at.
And I think she's just kind of making up some of the misconduct. I don't even know, are any of the, like the languaging around it. I'm like, is that even a real thing? I don't know.
Well, in Lori land, it is. So let's talk about it. So Lori Daybell requests the court grant her a new trial. This motion is filed pursuant to the protections provided by Rule 24.1 of the Arizona Rule of Criminal Conduct and Procedure. Of course, she's entitled to ask for this, right? And a lot of times these filings are kind of hair on fire because, we want the judge to think something really egregious happened, obviously. Right. But gosh. Number 1, facts. Juror misconduct. On April 28, 2025, it came to the attention of this defendant's advisory council and later the court that Juror 15 made a statement indicating he had knowledge of the defendant's prior conviction. He also indicated that he was leaning towards a not guilty vote up until yesterday through deliberations. This prior conviction involved the homicide of her children in Idaho in 2023. The defendant did not testify in this trial, and this conviction was not presented by the state as Rule 404B, other act evidence. Thus, Juror 15 should not have learned about this information. Because this case was a high-profile matter, once the jury was released from its admonition, jurors were free to speak with the media. During an interview, just to be clear, that would be the case in any matter, but okay.
Yeah.
During an interview, Juror 15 was asked about his reaction upon learning about the defendant's prior convictions. He stated the following: "You know, I feel sorry for her. Driving home yesterday, I was like, God, she's spending the next 3 lives in a prison cell." B. Preclusion of Tylee Ryan and Alex Cox statements and impermissible expert testimony by Detective Daniel Coons. Impermissible.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to trial, the court precluded this defendant from presenting to the jury any of Tylee Ryan or Alex Cox's statements. Both of these people were present during the shooting of Charles Vallow, and thus some of their statements were not hearsay, as they showed effect on listener pursuant to Arizona rules of evidence. The state filed a motion in limine, throwing a blanket hearsay objection over the entire statements. The court indicated in a pretrial hearing that it would, at least to Alex Cox's statement, take it on a statement-by-statement basis. During trial, this defendant was precluded from even discussing that Alex conducted a walkthrough, much less his statements with Chandler police detectives during the walkthrough.
That is not true. That is not true. They did talk about his walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And they did talk about what he told them about where he was standing when he shot Charles.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't kept out. That was true. They didn't get to see him talk about it, but they did bring that in.
Mm-hmm. Then in the state's case in chief, it elicited expert testimony from the scene agent, Detective Daniel Coons. This defendant objected to his testimony as an expert witness based on the lack of foundation and her not having had time to rebut his professional opinion. Again, this defendant was precluded from discussing Alex Cox walkthrough that was conducted with several Chandler police detectives, including Detective Coons. This walkthrough was precluded as inadmissible hearsay. However, it formed the basis for Detective Coons' questioning with the medical examiner and how he then investigated this case. As Alex Cox indicated, he shot the victim in self-defense.
They changed their mind.
Yeah.
And a grand jury agreed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what they thought at one point,
right,
if that's not what the charges were.
This isn't you have to make a decision right this second, and if you can't change it later. I don't know where she gets this from. Okay, C, discovery violation. On April 14th, 2025, during trial, Ms. Trina K. produced a hard drive containing the gray key information for Charles Vallow's cell phone. The contents of the hard drive are exculpatory evidence. Defense had been requesting this evidence so that she could provide it to her independent expert for his review. This discovery disclosure occurred in the middle of the trial. So it really didn't, because she did have it. She just didn't know how to get it.
Couldn't figure out how to find it in her discovery. Yeah, that's a lie to say that that's the first time she got it.
Yeah, so then they provided them with that thumb drive that they couldn't figure out how to open, yada, yada. Yeah. D, prosecutorial misconduct. On April 8th, 2025, the state elicited irrelevant, prejudicial, and improper character evidence when she asked Chandler Fire Captain Keller if he overheard any conversations with this defendant. Ms. Trina K. asked Captain Keller on direct examination, "Did you overhear this defendant talking with police?" He responded in the affirmative, stating that he overheard someone stating, "not getting invited to a pool party because of the commotion at the house or something." This statement caught this defendant off guard, as Captain Keller indicated during his interviews with Chandler police just after this incident occurred that he only saw the male outside on the curb and did not mention even seeing this defendant.
Where were you, Attorney Daybell? Where were you? In the moment. That's your job, right?
Yeah, she didn't object to that when it happened. I was surprised she didn't object to that because that sounded like hearsay to me, but she did
She didn't
not.
object to a lot of shit, and it's too late now.
During closing arguments while addressing the justification defenses, Ms. Trina K. told the jury that this defendant was not entitled to any of these self-defense instructions. Ms. Trina K. also gave false statements by saying Alex had no reason to be at this defendant's home and that this defendant told Alex to bring a gun. Ms. Trina K. knew from previous testimony interviews and pretrial defense interviews that Summer had begged Alex to go over to this defendant's home because of Summer's concerns for the defendant's safety. Finally, Ms. Trina K. commented several times on the defendant's demeanor during this incident, drive to the police station, on the body camera, and told the jury you did not see her cry in that interview. Yet, knowing there were portions of this defendant's interview that had been cut from the full interview, admitted by the state where she sat in the room and did show emotion and can be seen grabbing a Kleenex. Oh, are you kidding me?
That's why she wanted them to watch that interview? Because she did tear up, you guys.
And that's prosecutorial misconduct? Lori, do you know what prosecutorial misconduct is? I mean, clearly you don't.
Because she said she doesn't meet any of the self-defense criteria and went through the self-defense criteria. And here's why, from the evidence, she didn't meet those, which is certainly not something she can't say.
Right.
And if, right? Summer could have come in and given that statement if Lori had called her to the stand and told the judge that she had something relevant to say other than just, stuff and things.
Yep.
Give me a break.
Court's lack of impartiality. The court precluded this defendant from presenting a defense by striking her witnesses, including but not limited to Nate Eaton and Brandon Boudreau, before they were even called to the stand. Specifically, before testimony began, the court required this defendant to establish on the record what relevancy her witnesses would present.
Yeah, that is entirely your attorney's job, and you're your attorney, dum-dum.
This required the defendant to state in front of the prosecutor her defense strategy. This is not required under the law or any rule of evidence.
Are you kidding me? The prosecution had to do it too.
And also, it is when you are pro se and you have witnesses on your witness list who don't want to be witnesses and can't figure out why they're being called in. And also, Nate Eaton is a reporter, Lori. For God's sake, we've been over it 1,000 times. You can't just call him. Also, he had nothing to offer.
Yeah, he didn't even know you when Charles was killed. He has nothing to add to this trial. So stupid. I got to read this. Amber says, misconduct to her is anyone that doesn't say, you're right. And also, you're so pretty.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
During cross-examination of a civilian witness, Serena Sharp, in relation to testimony regarding religious beliefs, Lori, come on, man. Incorrect. The court commented during the prosecutor's objection to relevancy, stating, I guess to the extent that you're comparing yourself to these biblical figures, I will allow it. I mean, you were, Lori.
You were, in fact, doing that. So
you were trying to get in a scripture dance-off with Serena, so part of the state's case was to establish that this defendant had stepped outside of the Mormon religion by claiming she was a translated being, specifically in text messages, saying that she would be like Nephi, and that these messages were nothing more than part of the conspiracy to kill Charles Vallow. This defendant attempted to establish that being translated was a regular part of the Mormon religion and thus a relevant line of questioning. Was it, though?
Where is it in Mormonism? Please tell me. Because I went to seminary. I graduated from Rick's College. You tell me, where in Mormon doctrine are people regularly, just standard old people, especially murderers, translated beings? That is not Mormonism.
Not a thing, Lori.
No, Mormonism is you got to strive to be as good as a translated being your whole life. You can never do it because you're not perfect and you'll never make it. But you have to try as hard as you fucking can your entire life so that maybe you don't go to, outer darkness.
Yeah.
Like, people aren't being translated in Mormonism. Like, what the hell?
No, that's so far outside of what like mainstream Mormonism is that.
That's not even said about the prophet of the
No.
Mormon church.
They
are regularly reminded that he is, in fact, just a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Not even Joseph Smith or Brigham Young were translated, right?
True. Yeah.
Nor Russell M. Nelson, who's the half-dead prophet right now.
So then she gets into argument and authority. And I'm not going to read all of this because it's a lot of case law, though it's kind of hilarious because it's things like, I'll read you a couple of them because it's just funny. It's like she sees one line in something and she's like, there it is.
Yeah.
But the first that she's discussing is the juror and some case law, having to do with that, and saying, basically that they don't know if this juror knew, they don't know what he did or didn't know, but that the news disclosing is troubling. So they think that she should get a new trial because of that.
No, if the judge sees fit, he'll have a hearing and ask that juror. That juror has already rolled it all back. He is a dumbass. I would like to kick him square in the nuts, honestly. But
this is a bad one.
There are many steps before new trial in a situation like that.
So at the end of this, I'll just read you 2 paragraphs of this that I found interesting. At the time of the writing of this motion, it is not known if Juror 15 shared this information with other jurors. However, what is clear is that Juror 15 did not follow the admonition and notify the court of him having learned of this information, so an inquiry could have been conducted prior to deliberations. These actions directly violated the court's instructions and could have factored into Juror 15's verdict, if not multiple jurors' verdicts. In fact, Juror 15 noted that up until the day of closing arguments, he would have voted not guilty. Given this, the state is unable to prove that Juror 15's misconduct did not taint his and potentially other jury members' verdicts. The state will not be able to overcome the overwhelming evidence of Juror 15's misconduct. Overwhelming evidence?
There's not overwhelming evidence.
The state will not be able to overcome?
Well, he himself said that he was leaning toward not guilty until the day of closing arguments, not until the time I found out she, in fact, had been convicted of 3 other murders, but the day of closing arguments. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And Jess asks, did she even ask for a hearing? No, she went straight to new trial.
Yeah. New trial. All right. So the state will not be able to overcome the overwhelming evidence of Juror 15's misconduct in order to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Juror 15's misconduct did not taint the jury. Accordingly, this defendant is entitled to a new trial. Yeah. I mean, we are taking leaps and jumps.
Yeah. Big ones.
This is where the quote cracked me up. A new trial is appropriate. This has to do with the preclusion of Tylee Ryan and Alex Cox's statements, okay? A new trial is appropriate, and then in quotes, this is from Arizona Rule of Criminal, I don't know, criminal rules. I don't know. Her annotation is wild. Okay. A new trial is appropriate for any other reason not due to the defendant's own fault. The defendant has not received a fair and impartial trial. That's the quote. That's the case law she's quoting.
What? What's the citation for that?
Where's the rest of the citation? A new trial is appropriate if, for any other reason not due to the defendant's own fault, the defendant has not received a fair and impartial trial. By precluding Tylee Ryan and Alex Cox's statements, this defendant was prevented from presenting part of her defense at trial, and thus she did not receive a fair and impartial trial. The court made a pretrial ruling that, at least to Alex Cox's statements, it would make a statement-by-statement ruling. Instead, the defendant was even precluded from discussing Alex Cox's statement during his walkthrough we know that was at least in part not true. These walkthrough statements formed the basis for Detective Coons being able to testify as an expert, yet she was precluded from cross-examining him on this foundation. For this basis, the defendant is entitled to a new trial.
Nope.
And also, if you want to make that point about Alex, fine, but Tylee? The fact that you're even putting Tylee in this filing is really fucking gross, and not
It's
something
so
that's going to get
disgusting.
you any traction with the court.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the discovery violation. We've already discussed it, but
she just refused to understand that issue. Refused.
Yep.
By the way, also, Tammy says that there are only 2 translated beings in the whole of the King James Version of the Bible, and that's Elijah and Jesus.
Wow.
I have
Not
a
even
question,
Lori?
Are the 3 Nephites translated beings?
Oh,
Is that why
question.
they still walk the earth? I don't know.
I don't
but
know
I mean,
either.
just regular old people
Mm-hmm.
being translated. No, that is not a Mormon thing. Give me a break. Right, Paula, she blames Tylee for all the deaths. She wanted to talk shit on Tylee the entire time, regardless of the fact that she killed her.
Yep.
Yes, my kitty this is her thing. She loves to pace back and forth in front of me when I'm on the radio. And some of you said it's because she's trying to tickle my nose with her tail, which is true. It's a little more like slap me in the face with it, but that is part of it, yes.
And then, of course, back to acts of prosecutorial misconduct entitles this defendant to a new trial. Again, she uses the same quote. This is the case law we're quoting. A new trial is appropriate if, for any other reason not due to the defendant's own fault, the defendant has not received a fair and impartial trial. Again.
That is what? She has cut and pasted
that too many times.
All that shit together, because I don't even know what that means.
Again, she's complaining about Keller and that his statement was irrelevant and prejudicial to the defendant. I just really honestly, why didn't she object to that at the time if it was a problem for her? She didn't. Yeah. She didn't say a word.
No, she's decided now it is, and the judge would have said, you had remedies at the time, and you didn't use them, so I don't think you were too concerned.
Again, she's claiming that Prosecutor K misstated the law or evidence during closing arguments.
No, she didn't. She said, Lori doesn't qualify for these. Here's all the reasons why. Here's all the evidence we've presented that says she did not qualify for a self-defense verdict.
And then she's got some case law based on the judge commenting on evidence during her cross-examination that showed a lack of impartiality and entitles this defendant to a new trial. And it might surprise you to hear that the statement it's a little different. She changed it up. A defendant may move for a new trial based on the court's lack of impartiality. There it is. That's the smoking gun.
Boom. Are you kidding me? He was so patient with her. All the rest of us wanted to snatch her bald, and he just kept being patient with her.
Yeah. I know. That it kills me that she's saying anything like that about this judge, because he was crazy impartial. He was more than impartial. He was very fair to her, beyond fair to her. But there it is. So it was impropriety on the part of the courts, on the part of the state, on having an expert witness that wasn't really an expert, on not letting her dead daughter testify. It's right out there for you.
That she murdered? Yeah. Wow.
Insane. Yep. So there you go. So I'm stupidly curious. I can't wait to see the response from the state and then the ruling from the judge on this. I can't wait to see all of those filings, because they're going to be great.
Yeah, they are. They are going to be fabulous.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you for some MMIW cases.
Yes. So there are several hashtags out there. We've been using MMIW for a long time. Now there's MMIWG, which is missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And then there's also missing and murdered Indigenous people, MMIP. Because the reality is that, in fact, there are many missing and murdered Indigenous people in the
So
United
many.
States, in Canada, in Australia. Like, it's happening in a lot of places, because here in Idaho, that includes Native Americans, and it also includes Native Alaskans. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this day. So this is the day that you wear red. You often see people with the red handprint of paint over their faces. I didn't do that because I'm allergic to that paint, but I did have my shirt on. And this is an important day for us to acknowledge that this is still a huge problem. And very small and slow incremental changes have started to be implemented to help solve some of these situations, but they're still a big deal. So this was the rally that was held in Oklahoma today. And there were rallies all over the country. A lot of tribes had these rallies, as well as some cities and states also recognize MMIP Day. And I think it's awesome that we're seeing so much more attention being given to these things than there has been in the past. It's a start. It's nowhere near enough, but it is a start. Let me tell you, I don't know if I'm able to. Okay. Let's see. 506 MMIWG cases were identified across 71 selected urban cities in this one study. 128 cases were of Indigenous women. 280 were cases of murdered Indigenous women. 98 cases were unknown status. And 29 is the median age of missing and murdered women and girls victims. That's hideous. It's so wrong, particularly considering what a very small amount of the population is actually considered Indigenous here in the United States. These numbers are massive for such a small population.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here are some facts about missing and murdered Indigenous Peoples Day. In 2021, the FBI estimated that nearly 10,000 American Indian and Alaska Native people went missing. Many cases of violence, murder, and rape never get reported or investigated. The murder rate among women who live on reservation land is 10 times higher than the national average. Murder, violence, and rape occur at higher rates within American Indian and Alaska Native communities due to multiple and complex traumas, not to mention the fact that white people often commit these crimes. Today, take a moment to recognize the crisis in Native communities and many of the inequalities that exist to exacerbate it. So I would encourage you, wherever you live, whether you're in the US or you're somewhere else, to look into this problem, learn about how it exists in your community and what's being done about it and ways that you can raise awareness. Because it really is an important issue that we can have some influence on. Asking our local politicians, our local law enforcement, what is being done about these things. And we know in the United States, there's a lot of problems with jurisdiction and with the relationship between the FBI and local tribal police, right? Bureau of Indian Affairs. And, if the feds get involved, it's the FBI. And that's not necessarily a happy relationship on a lot of reservations. Then you have what is it? Is it North Dakota or South Dakota that Kristi Noem was the governor of?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. She's such a racist, horrible person that all of the tribes in South Dakota, of which there are many, banned her from their property. There's not been good across the board federal help. We did have Deb Haviland.
Or warm and fuzzies at all.
Yes, not at all. We had Deb Haviland as the head of the Department of Interior for 4 years, and she did a lot of work She's not in that position anymore. And, if you're not putting direct energy into this issue, it becomes invisible. Marta says U.S. Marshals task forces have full jurisdiction as well and are much more set up to respond quickly. That is good to know. That is very good to know. So I wanted to just acknowledge that day, and then I'm going to remind you of a case that we have covered here before. This is a local case to us that has never been solved.
No.
This is Rebecca Plentywounds.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Rebecca Plentywounds. She was 35 years old at the time. This was in 2017. She was a mother of 7 children who went missing in October of 2017. She was last seen on the Fort Hall Reservation, which is the reservation closest to us. It's not very far from where I live. Around October 20th of 2017. Family members found her body 4 days later. One of her siblings stated, "My mother and little sister found her body that was dismembered and dumped in the weeds by a rundown shed on my mother's property." It looked like she was beaten, her face was swelled up, and it looked like she had been in a fight. She was dismembered. That's 100% murder, right?
Well, how could it
at the
really
time,
be anything else? There's foul play there without question.
Right. In January of 2018, it was reported that tribal police were awaiting the results of an autopsy and a toxicology report. And that is literally the last thing you will ever see anywhere on public news of any kind about the murder of Rebecca Plentywounds. Her death has never even been ruled a homicide.
Nope.
As a matter of fact, there were rumors that it was a suicide.
That's what was circulating the news. Yeah.
Can you imagine, please, because we've been having this conversation recently because of Lori Vallow's bullshit. How do you kill yourself and then dismember your own body? Please give me any scenario in which that is even possible.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
No.
It is. It's a cover-up. It is disgusting. It is heartbreaking. I cannot imagine for her family. Because you know who was looking for that for her? Her family.
Her family was.
And only her family. But can you imagine finding a beloved member of your family dead and dismembered on your own property?
Yep.
Absolutely.
She's a mother of 7. She didn't just wander away. She didn't just lay down in a field and die. She didn't dismember herself.
No.
This is a case that is solvable.
This was a murder. I'm sure it is solvable. Why it has been ignored and covered up, I don't know. But there are no good reasons for that. No. Not any. Because if someone was willing to do that to Rebecca Plentywounds, then they should not be allowed to live free on this planet.
No.
Because if they would do it to her, they would do it to someone else too.
Yep. And also the question that has to be asked every single time is, if her name wasn't Rebecca Plentywounds, if she had blonde hair and blue eyes, would this case be solved by now? I present to you my theory that it certainly would be. Yep.
Absolutely. The weekend that she went missing, her boyfriend texted one of her siblings from her phone saying she was gone and she had never done this before and to please help look for her.
Yeah.
He had her phone, guys.
Yep. Why?
So where had that phone been? What had that phone been doing? Right?
And where had she been without her phone?
Right. Leading up to her death, she had been excited because she was about to get full custody of one of her children. So she had been in a custody battle with relating to one of her kids and was about to get full custody of that child.
Yeah. This case will never not piss me off and just haunt me
Never,
that this
never.
happened
And
here.
her family is devastated, and they do not
Mhm.
believe for one moment that she took her own life. And if she did she come back as a ghost and dismember herself on her mother's property? I really doubt that a lot. Yeah.
But
So,
unfortunately, so many of these cases have been treated the same way.
yep. If a woman dies and she's Indigenous, she is treated as though she is less than human.
Mhm.
Her death isn't important. She doesn't matter in the world. She doesn't have family, children, people who love her, who are
Mhm.
devastated by her loss, and she apparently doesn't have the same value as white girls that get murdered.
Mhm.
It's quite clear. We watched it over and over again. And I will say this, Rebecca Plentywounds matters in this world. She mattered to her children and all of her family and friends, and she
Mhm.
had value because she existed as a human being.
Yeah.
And her death should be solved, and the person who killed her should go to prison.
Yeah.
And that's what
Absolutely.
I've got for Missing and Murdered Indigenous People Day.
This case makes me think of a case out of Hardin, Montana. Case Sarah Stops Pretty Places,
Yes.
and how the Billings and Hardin police treated her case and didn't treat her case. She was clearly murdered. There were witnesses, there was evidence, and there was never a thing done about it. Not a thing. Thinking about the I can't think of her name right now. Oh, I should. Is Jade Wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Jade Wagon's sister uh, was murdered, clearly murdered, in
Mm-hmm.
Montana on the Wind River Reservation. Or sorry, in Wyoming on the Wind River Reservation. Jade spent an entire year trying to get justice for her sister, and then guess who else turned up dead? Jade.
Jade did.
Neither one of those cases have ever been solved.
No. No.
And on and on and on and on and on.
Kristi says, what is the source of the bias? It's racism. Pure and simple. It is racism.
It is. It is.
Smiling says, can law enforcement help with Indigenous, or is it just their tribal police? So their tribal police had to determine this to be a murder first, and then the FBI would have come in, or they could have asked local police to come in to help them investigate it. It's never even been identified as a murder.
No. So it would have to get that
This
much
case is 8 years old.
traction. Yeah.
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 I've written to our local media about this case.
We have begged East Idaho News to dig into this
Crickets.
case. We can't get a
Nothing.
response back from them.
No, they just don't even respond. And it's so disgusting to me. Like somehow she doesn't matter. It is shameful. Stella, I agree. It is shameful.
It is shameful. They're all shameful. All of them.
Every one of them.
So we'll keep an eye on them. We'll keep calling these out. Recently, there was some good and terrible news, of course, out of Alaska when they finally decided to, or was this Alaska or was this in Canada?
This was Canada.
This was Canada. As soon as I said it, I knew
The
that was wrong.
landfill.
Yes, the serial killer that murdered at least 4 Indigenous women or First Nations women, they call them there, and dumped them in landfills. And of course, the authorities were like, "Oh, we're not searching landfills. Gross." And we're just going to let those women's bodies just return to the earth that way and refuse to search for them amidst all of the garbage and refuse. And it took a huge outcry to convince them to do it, but they finally did. But again, tell me, if that was somebody else, would there have been that kind of a fight with the authorities? No.
Well, the little Simon baby, Leilani Simon,
Yeah.
Clinton Simon, was found at a landfill at the same time that those Canadian authorities refused to look for those women in a landfill.
Yeah.
And he was not a Native kid. He was a white
Nope.
kid.
Yeah. Yep. It sucks. We have miles and miles and miles to go in justice, in criminal justice, and
Yeah.
lots of other ways. But this is one that just deserves all the attention. So,
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
absolutely.
And just an acknowledging of Missing and Murdered Indigenous Person Day. And it was identified as Missing and Murdered Indigenous Person Day in honor of a particular person, missing Indigenous woman whose birthday was May 5th.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that's what we've got. We have a really special episode for you guys tomorrow,
We do.
talking about the murder of Holly Bobo. We've talked about Holly Bobo's murder before. That's why we're doing this episode. But we've been given the opportunity to interview a reporter, an ABC reporter named Eva Pilgrim, about her series about Holly Bobo that's starting to be released tomorrow. And so she's going to come on the show. That part of the show will be a pre-record, but we'll still do a live and discuss it a little bit with you guys and then play our interview with her. So we're excited. It's kind of a cool opportunity for us. We've never done something like this before, but it's fun. They approached us. So as you probably noticed, we don't really do interviews very often. We don't seek them out. But occasionally one falls in our laps, and here we go. So we're excited to talk to Eva tomorrow and then bring that to you guys on our regular scheduled show tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain with our interview with Eva about Holly Bobo. Then we'll be back on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for case updates. And then, of course, we'll be back on Thursday at 3 p.m. for one more episode for the week. So all of that's happening. It is a cool opportunity. Yeah. Star, I'll have to look into Annie Mae's murder. I don't think I'm familiar with that one, but thanks for sharing that.
There's a film about that.
Yeah, Thunderheart. I'll check it out. Thank you, Star. Yeah. Kaylin wants you back in the police hat on the next WTF News.
Could happen.
It's coming. Yeah. So there you go. Well, thanks you guys so much for being here. Please take good care of yourselves. We'll be back tomorrow. This has been yet another edition of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.
Season 6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.